I could only buy one of these pedals, the would be the one. Hi guys, I hope you're well. Today I've decided to compare two of the most controversial pedals, I would say, mainly because of their price and because of the way they're marketed, but two pedals that I've actually decided are some of my favorite that I've ever tried, and that is the Vemuram Shanks ODS1 and the Vemuram Giveaway. Now, I've had a couple of people ask me to compare the two, and obviously they're based on different things, so the comparison here is not about how similar can they be. It's more, if you're going to spend this sort of money on a single pedal, which one's the right one for you? You might be thinking, I just want a Vemuram pedal because I've heard good things, you know, and that's justified, but you might only want to buy one of them. And actually, I've already filmed this today, and it's the first time I'd really put the two side by side. And for me, there's a clear favorite in terms of the enjoyment of playing, the flexibility of it, what it can give you, and the bang for your buck, but we'll get there, of course, a little bit later. First thing I want to state is I've just filmed all the demos, and unfortunately, manually focused my camera slightly wrongly, so the whole time it's focused very slightly over my shoulder to an amp at the back instead of the guitar at the front. So unfortunately, aesthetically today, this is definitely not my best video. So if you're new to the channel, I apologize for that, and I'll be making sure that in my next video I get back to my normal attempt at a high quality sort of presentation, and I feel a bit annoyed about it, but the demos I've done I'm happy with, so I didn't want to redo them. What I'm going to do today is basically just take you through a few different settings on the pedal so you can get a really wide view of them, and I'll give you my thoughts and feelings as we go along. So, what's the rig today? I've got my Rift Ainsley Lister amp. I'm working on a review for that one, so the next few pedal videos will all be using that amp so that I can personally feel and get a really good feel for it as I start to make my review. And I'm using a Gibson R9 predominantly. And then what I've done is I've done the same settings on a Fender 70th anniversary broadcaster, and I'm going to put all those clips at the end of the video, and there'll be timestamps for everything. So rather than putting massive chunks of both guitars in between each bit of talking, I thought it'd be better just to save all the broadcaster stuff for the end. So if you're much more of a Tele single coil player, you could flick back and forth. I'll make it as easy as possible in the timestamps. If you only play humbuckers, then it's easy enough for you. Okay, so I wanted to tell you a bit about this amp. It's an EL34 amp, British voiced, pretty much based on some vintage Marshalls that Ainsley Lister himself had found, combo amps with reverb in them. This is an absolute beast of an amp, one of my favorite ever, on a par with my Two Rock amps, but just completely different. Now, what's really cool about this amp, and I'll get more into it in the review, is that the preamp switch or knob is actually a pull, push, push, pull, a pull, push sort of knob. Now, when it's pushed in, that's its default setting, and that's got a bright cap involved, and it massively increases the output as well as making it brighter. That also increases the noise floor. So when I'm doing pedal videos, I'll have it pulled out. That means the bright cap is not engaged. The noise floor is much lower. You can't hear anything. And in this video, we've got the whole amp set pretty clean so that it's good for pedals. And it's going to show you over these next few videos as well how good of a pedal platform this is. I've got the reverb onto a nice level, and otherwise the tone is all just set for my room to be quite lively, and really fantastic to play. So let's hear the amp first. Okay, so I've chosen 3 different settings today to compare these pedals. So this is not a very in-depth sort of review of every single way you could set the pedals, but what we started with first is the gain on both roughly in the middle of the range and the volume lower down. So this is a relatively realistic way to set it because obviously if you're playing at home as well, these pedals have the potential, Vemuram in general pedals can be very loud, and we will get there later in the video. So I've set this to a level which you could be comfortable, not necessarily with a baby in the next room, but let's compare these two really playable settings. Okay, so I really enjoyed both of the pedals in that setting. The first thing to say, if you don't know, is the Jam Ray is based on the Timmy pedal, and I've done a comparison video which you can find here. The Shanks is based on the Noble's ODR1, so that's the so-called Nashville session sound. You know, a lot of session players are famous for using the Noble's ODR1. Well, the Shanks is based on that, and it's actually, you know, I've done a comparison. It's that sort of 20-25% better in every way is what I found personally when I did a comparison. Much more articulate, the harmonics are just more pleasant, there's no mushiness, etc, etc. Well, in this particular setting, what I found really interesting was it showed the whole thing about the Jan Ray is more transparency and less compression, more warm tube driven sound. The Shanks has this whole other thing, which is this beautiful sort of upper mids harmonics thing that sort of overlays the whole sound and really is really gorgeous. It's addictive to play. So in this setting, both of them are being shown really for the sort of sound that they're most commonly used for, which is for the Jam Ray a bit more of a transparent edge of breakup sound, and the Shanks slightly more rock oriented and much more compressed, but the compression is not muddy, and that's what's so fantastic about it. It's still a really open feeling pedal. Okay, let's move on to the next setting. Okay, in this one I kept the gain roughly in the middle, but I've moved the volume up to the middle as well. Now at this point I have to stress this is very loud, you know, really loud. I've got a decibel meter about 4 or 5 feet away from the amp, and it was reading up to 114 decibels. So in this video, basically, you know, I'm showing these pedals at their potential, and if you're a pro or you do a lot of gigs, fine, you'll be able to use the pedals, you know, reasonably loudly, but the volume is not so important. I'm definitely not going to go louder in this video, but I wanted to see how the volume interacts with the gain, so let's hear that and see what happens. Well, what's fantastic with both is the quality of the sound doesn't really change at all. It just gets louder, and obviously that interacts more with your amp. And so things happen between the two. The Shanks gets more and more sort of wonderful and has this sort of trailing edge, fuzzy edge that's just really harmonically fantastic. I've got to say, just picking arpeggios on this with a plectrum is just one of the greatest pleasures in the guitar world as far as I'm concerned. It opened up a little bit more. I found it definitely didn't get mushy. You know, I didn't change the gain setting obviously, so the compression itself didn't change, but it's great to see that the pedal is able to just get louder without affecting the gain too much. Same really for the Jam Ray. It got a little bit more overdriven, mainly probably because of the way it interacts with the amp when it's that much more volume involved, but it's still open and it's still much less compressed in that sense, and I can see it on my editing software. The decibel meter was the same for both. You know, I do little tests before I start recording just to make sure I've got the volume within a decibel or less, and you will see normally on my editing software that the range of the sound on the Jam Ray is wider because it's less compressed, whereas you see on the Shanks there's more of an even sound. So that can actually give you a lot of answers there in itself. You know, the Jam Ray in some ways more dynamic, depends how you're playing of course, but also less good for say power chords and things like that. Right, we're going to do one last setting, which is going to be the gain much higher, sort of past 3/4 on. The volume just turned back a notch, and I've got to say when I did use my decibel meter, it was now at about 111 decibels instead of 114, but I'd only moved the volume back a tiny bit, but of course they're compressing more because I turned the gain up. So again, that can help you to think about how these pedals work. Let's hear it. You know, this is possibly the setting I would just leave both of these pedals in, because when you use the volume on your guitar, you get the full range really of the whole thing. But with the gain set this high, you're getting really basically the potential of the pedal out there. So when you whack everything up, you have the best sound out of these pedals, I find. It's so rare for me to actually enjoy the gain knob on a pedal. I normally, in a way, I use most pedals as a boost with a little bit of the hint of the gain that they've got. But with these pedals, both of them, I really enjoy the gain sounds. Now, as you turn the Jam Ray up, you're going to get a little bit more compression, but what's incredible is how uncompressed really it stays. So if you're an edge of breakup player and you're someone very subtle, then the Jam Ray really is probably working best for you, because it's, even as you turn the gain up and you roll back your guitar volume, you're getting so many pick dynamics and so much sensitivity. So I think in that sense it works for that. If you're really into Led Zeppelin or you're into much bigger rock sounds, then the Shankd works better for you. Okay, so I've kept this quite basic in the sense I've only done 3 different settings, but I really think that showed the whole range and the real potential of these pedals, and really will make you, help you to make a decision about which one is for you. If you love uncompressed, warm tube sounds, really dynamic and edge of breakup, then the Jam Ray is going to be the pedal for you. It can play from pretty quiet to incredibly loud, and it can do all of that range without losing any sort of articulation definition. It doesn't get mushy. The quality of the sound is not affected. I would say if you're just, I'm a bedroom player, I don't mean it like that. I can play quite loud in this room. I've set it up that way with a bit of soundproofing. But if you're playing in your bedroom and you cannot make too much noise, the Jam Ray may not be for you, because if you play it really quietly but turn the gain up, you're not going to get quite what the pedal is really there for. So it may not be worth it for you. The Shankd, if I could only buy one of these pedals, the Shankd would be the one. Because if you set the gain really low and the volume high, which I didn't do today, but I've done it in previous videos, just take my word for it that you are going to get a wonderful boost, a pretty transparent edge of breakup boost, and it's glorious to play with. As you start to use the gain controls more, I find the Shankd is just one of the most beautiful pedals to listen to that I've ever played personally. Such a wide range of tones out of it. Between the both of them, they're both equally high quality in the sound, in the way they relate to your guitar volume, in your pick dynamics. So, the brand itself maintains that incredibly high quality level. If you veer towards more of the rock stuff, let's say Led Zeppelin, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, pick your band, I would say the Shankd is for you. If you're much more of a blues player who likes to be as uncompressed as possible but with an edge of breakup, then the Jam Ray is probably going to be for you. But if I could only have one pedal on the board to try and do everything with, it would be the Shankd, because I think it covers some of the same territory that the Jam Ray does when you have the gain set low, but the Jam Ray can't do anything that the Shankd can do. It doesn't have those incredible, fuzzy, wonderful harmonics. So I hope I've kept that as clear as possible today. I didn't want to complicate it too much. And now all the broadcaster clips are going to be at the end. And I hope they just prove to you the same things as with the humbucker. And both pedals work equally well with all different types of guitars. I found I didn't obviously want to put every guitar through a test here, but whether it's a Strat, whether it's a semi-hollow body, a Les Paul, a Telecaster, these pedals are useful for all of those. So I hope that's helped you make some decisions. Ask me any questions you've got down below. There's going to be more talk of Nobles type pedals when I do a green side of the protein comparison. I've got that coming up soon. And just before I go, if you're new to the channel and you don't know I'm doing a giveaway, when I hit 3,500 subs, I'll be giving away one of the most useful, fantastic pedals I've ever used, which is the Horsebreaker by Cherryatone. That is a Klon Centaur clone and a Bluesbreaker clone on the same pedal. Now I've done a video about this, or 2 videos, which I'll link the first one up here. All you need to do is subscribe to the channel publicly. If you don't know what that means, leave me a comment down below, and well, make a comment as well. That's how I pick the people that go in the hat. If you've made a comment and you subscribed, you go in the hat. So anyway, enjoy the rest of the demos, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. you.